Call the Germantown School District Board of Education meeting to order, July 15th at 6:30 PM. Item 1, open session A, roll call.
Ewert.
Yes.
Brown.
Here.
Barney's here. Loth.
Here.
Pollack.
Here.
Higginbotham.
Here.
Boyer.
Here.
Item B, approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Mr. Barney with the motion, and Mr. Brown will give it to the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Item 2, closed session A, Board of Education will entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 1:19.85, Sub 1, Sub C, to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any employee, a Germantown High School assistant principal candidate.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ewert.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Barney is yes. Loth.
Yes.
Pollack.
Yes.
Higginbotham.
Yes.
Boyer.
Yes.
We are into closed session at 6:31 PM, and we will be back. It's 7:01 PM. I will call the Germantown School District Board of Education meeting to order, July 15th. Please stand, if you're able, for a pledge of allegiance and a brief moment of silence. One A, official meeting notification, Dr. Reuter.
Thank you. Public notice of all meetings has been given by communication from the superintendent's office to the public, to those news media who have requested such notice, and to the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, Northwest Now, Express News, and the West Bend Daily News. Public notice has also been posted in schools throughout the district and on the Germantown School District website.
Thank you. 1B, roll call, Mr. Barney.
Ewert.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Barney's here. Loth.
Here.
Pollack.
Here.
Higginbotham.
Here.
Boyer.
Here.
Thank you. Item 2, approval of agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Who had second there? Mr. Boyer did. Mr. Barney with the motion, Mr. Boyer with the second. Any discussion? Under reports, and this is my mistake, we missed the village liaison, so we'll have to do that next month, unfortunately, but no further discussion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Item 3, reports. A, District Administrator update, Dr. Reuter.
Thank you, Mr. Ewert. We are in the thick of July, which means we've rolled over fiscal year at district office. All departments have either concluded or are in the final stages of year-end reporting, whether it's financial, special ed reporting, civil rights reporting, student data information to DPI, or from the human resources, our big report on licensure and all of our staffing that takes place. We also had, in the past few weeks, our auditors on site for our annual audit that you will see this fall. We're hopeful we're 100% clean again like we were last year. So they're on site for a week. They were on site for a week, working through with our finance department, as well as reaching out to directors as need be to look at last year's expenditures and process. I'd like to welcome Dr. Castro, our new Human Resources Director. He's officially in week 3 this week, and he's made a big impact already in the 3 weeks he's been here in Germantown. So welcome tonight. You'll hear from him during the consent agenda as well. And I know a few, Mr. Ewert, you've met with him. Mr. Brown, you've met with him as Vice President and overseeing Personnel Committee. So welcome, Martine, and we look forward to a long career together. Also, our principals are here tonight. My next report is our disciplinary data report. I plan to speak little and allow the board to ask questions directly to our principals regarding the data and what the implications are and work we're doing in our buildings to continue to improve student behavior as well as engagement of kids. Shout out to Officer Tony Olson. She was awarded the DARE Award, a School Resource Officer DARE Award for the state level this past month. And so we're very proud of her. She's taught DARE for many years here in the Germantown School District, been an employee of the Germantown Police Department as well as an SRO. Anyone that comes in contact with her knows her heart and soul are dedicated to not only this high school, but the school district. And this is long overdue for her. So
Absolutely.
Congratulations to Tony. Summer school ends on Friday. I feel like I just said this to you guys that, hey, we're starting a new school year, summer school year. This Friday will be our last week of summer school. Thank you to all the families that entrusted us with their kids over the summer, the teachers for their programming, and support staff to make sure that summer was fun for our kids, even if it was credit recovery. And to our principal team, I don't know that you all know or the community knows, they trade off weeks being the stand-in administrator throughout the summer. So our principals work year-round as well as our assistant principals, and they kind of divide and conquer who the point person is for any disciplinary needs, clarifications with staff, or needs from parents. So thank you to our principals as well. And today around 4 o'clock, depending upon where you fell in the alphabet, the school year verification form went out. So we're already planning for, in the process for next year, get to Target because the signs are up for summer school supplies. But they're hopefully, and Mr. Pollack, I remember after my first year, you made comments related to this, and every year we've done additional refinement to our process through Skyward. I actually went in as a pretend parent at all 3 levels and practiced and made sure as the final touch that there weren't any major hiccups based on feedback we've received from the parents in the past. I think it's the smoothest it's been since I've been working here. Thank you to Melissa Timmerman and Kathy Swanson in Jake's office. They did a lot of heavy work and lifting along with our IT department to try to make it as smooth as possible. One thing that is a major change in it, so that people are aware that are watching or listening, and you know as a board, is we changed to residency verification every year now for every grade level. It used to be at transition grades, and then we did it for every other year. Now it's every year, so that we are very clear that the students that are coming to school here are students that are either here through open enrollment or taxpayer students, so that it doesn't become a month into the school year and we're trying to get verification and we find out a student isn't our student, we lose funding, or we're using funding in the wrong aspect. So that is a major change that families will see as they go to that verification, and it clearly states what documentation needs to be uploaded to verify that annually. And if you live where you say you live, it should be very easy.
I did get that email, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, you're my rubric over there, Mr. Pollock. So that's I think all I have for this month of July.
Awesome. We'll let you go right into B, disciplinary data report.
All right, like I said, this evening you'll see in your packet, and I just have the charts by school. I don't think I'm going to go through each one and read the numbers to you as you can do that. Anyone viewing from home can access this as well in the packet online. Some work has been done in the last 3 years. We log disciplinary data through our SIS, which is a Skyward program, which we use for multiple things, financials, like I just stated in my last report, online verification of students or of residency as well as the enrollment process. The admin team has engaged in the last 3 years. I'm really trying to be consistent when it comes to the categories you see outlined at the bottom of any of the disciplinary charts by school, and then trying to scale down. 3 years ago, we probably had over 100 different categories, and as you know, the more categories you have, the more discrepancy there is in reporting, as well as the vagueness of where you fall and what the understanding is of each category. So the admin team has worked the last 3 years to scale down and build consistent categories K through 12. But for example, a category at kindergarten, like disruption, may mean, the definition of that might mean something very different than disruption in the classroom at the secondary level. So the work that the admin team will be doing over the next school year, now that we have consistency in reporting and terms, will be defining that deeper and at an elementary, middle, and high school level, and continue to refine so our data can be as accurate as possible, site by site, but then we can look longitudinally across the system of where are the areas of concern that we continue to see growth over time, that then Katie's department can work through the pupil service lens on proactive measures on how to steep that data in order to make sure that that those behaviors minimize over time. So there's still work to do, but we are much further along than we were 3 years ago when it came to reporting out annually our disciplinary data. And I believe my first year, this became a mandatory annual report out in one of our, wasn't bullying policy, but it was a different disciplinary policy that was added during a policy committee. So July is the right time to do this as we've concluded the school year. So you can see all of our 6 schools, the categories, and the number of instances as reported through Skyward. So I'll leave that, open that up to the board. Principals, I know a couple board members may have questions, so as they ask, if you come up to the mic, that would be great. Mr. Barney.
Mr. Barney?
Not specific to Amy Bell, you just happen to have it on the screen here.
Sorry, Lindsay, it's alphabetical.
Well, all the acronyms on here, what is PHA, PHY, AGG major?
That could probably be physical.
Abbreviations.
If you just come down to the mic, and I think you're the perfect person to answer.
And yeah,
this.
Alex, I think Alex had
For our last
spearheaded
discussion.
a lot of this work as her role of dean and now hopefully assistant principal at the end of this meeting, to try to scale the work so that we're a little more consistent. So Alex, could you talk to kind of the process, how we got here, and then maybe to the acronyms?
So in terms of process, we used, as Chris had stated, we had probably over 100 previous codes. So as a district leadership team, we met and discussed what codes we felt would be most representative of the scenarios we see within the school setting across levels, and then we narrowed it down based off of that. In terms of the 3-letter abbreviations in front, they're simply just an abbreviation that's coded within the student information system. There is no meaning behind them other than to simplify within the system, because it won't always show the entire title.
The text box, Mr. Barney, are very small in Skyward, so like vandalism shows up as VAN as the qualifier, and the qualification as vandalism major.
Got it, thank you.
And I do have a question too regarding, because there's at least a handful, I think, of different labels for inappropriate behavior, theft, that have major and minor. So whether it be a specific example in one of the categories or a more general explanation, what defines the minor versus major type of incident that may have occurred?
So that's definitely something we need to iron out of what the major versus the minor and each of these codes look like in terms of definitions at each level. But an example of, let's go with theft, major and minor. Did you steal a friend's pencil out of their pencil pouch in elementary school, or did you physically go in someone's locker and steal their cell phone? That'd probably be a major. So I think that one's fairly clear-cut in terms of, maybe the monetary value of the item associated with it, but we certainly need to iron out what each of those looks like at the various levels, as well as defining them in general.
Any more questions? Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, I'm wondering, Amy Bell just happens to be up on the screen.
We can change it.
AST
Scroll to new school.
assault, so what sort of things come under assault?
Again, I think that's going to look very different at the elementary level versus the secondary level. So speaking from the secondary level, I would view it as a student who was physically attacked by another student at the elementary level.
Elementary principals, does anyone want to share an example of what that could look like?
So when county line, so I don't have any assaults, but I would see that an example of like, if you see the physical aggression minor, that would be, in my eyes, like, flag football is outside, and instead of using a gentle touch, we might have accidentally pushed someone. So when we talk to the student, we kind of find out more about what happened first, what made you do that, so it's really getting to that root cause of what occurred. So each situation might look different, but then you'll see like physical aggression is the category for that, but oftentimes that might be something that happened at recess.
Yeah, so you think about roughhousing as a minor versus I'm found in the hallway, pushed a kid against the locker or the wall at the elementary level.
I think one thing that would be helpful, besides defining kind of, maybe even consolidating some of these, because we may find assault and physical aggression are kind of sort of the same thing based off of a definition that we create, is to also give these labels, not a priority, but kind of a red is like, this is bad, versus a green where it's like, it's something that maybe falls more, it's still a discipline item, but it's also one of those things where when we look at this, if we see, I'm just gonna throw out disruption, it's not the worst thing in the world versus like a physical attack versus something like that. Just so that when we look at this, some of these bars look really big, but it's also, well, it maybe would fall into that green category where it's like, it's still something that needs to be addressed, but it's actually kind of age, not appropriate, but age-related, those sorts of things, just so that we have a better idea when we're looking at this, what falls under that not so great category, and also just for the general public too, so that when they look at this, I could see people looking at some of these things going, ooh, this is really bad, but it's also grade school, it's kindergarten, it's, those sorts of things, but kids still have to learn from it, but it's gonna happen too.
And I think that will be the maturation of this report, that next year you'll see definitions of what's the difference between major, minor at each of the levels. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, principals, but when things are majors, they do often end in detention and or suspension or bigger things when it comes to that.
Yep, that would be a fair assessment, and to the point you had made as well, we did also spend time as an administrative team doing just that and ranking each of these on a scale of 1 to 5, and so we're working on organizing that information as well to be able to share that out so that it is more clear of the severity level of each, as well as I want to point out that some of these codes that are in here are required for DPI state reporting, and assault happens to be one of them, so that might be why there may be overlap in some of the codes, because some we have to report to the state for state reporting, and then the others may not be as severe, so we may not report on them.
Yeah, there are 7 categories that are mandatory state reporting, I believe?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, there's a drop down that it automatically comes into Skyward that we have to report on weapons in school, certain levels of physical aggression, racist remarks, those type of things for civil rights, reporting as well as school safety that are automatics, and those usually are automatically majors with, always majors with suspensions.
So every incident that we have is only in one category. It's not like you could have a physical aggression with a theft minor. You know what I'm saying? Is it just, every incident just falls under one category?
Yes, that is correct. There would be only one offense assigned for each disciplinary referral.
So I know that these are being ironed out, and I don't want to go and break down every category, but could I have an example of, just on Amy Bell, the difference of a disruption and a disruption plus?
disruption plus, but,
Just what I'm
so
saying.
I think there's a little bit of context that I can add to this as well. I know as you scroll, you know, you're seeing like the physical aggression is the bars that look quite high, right? But one thing I always want to point out to people is that when it comes to anything physical, it's a very black or white behavior, right? So it's like, you see it, you know, even across the recess playground, I can see it. So the importance of documenting that, because I physically saw it, it kind of rises to the level, whereas things like disruption or even language to a certain degree, there's a little bit of ambiguity with that. And so sometimes I think, depending on the teacher, depending on the situation, depending on the student, it's like, ugh, I don't know if I should document it or not. I don't know if it rises up to the occasion, where physical aggression definitely always does. So generally with behavior data, those bars are usually pretty high, and that's the reason why, is because it's very clear cut. This happened, I need to document it. So I think that's important to add context to that. When I'm thinking of disruption, like a minor, and especially thinking about, you know, like in Amyville, for example, we have 4-year-olds in the same building that we have 11-year-olds. So when you think about the development of students that are 4 versus students that are 11, it's gonna look very different. One thing I always take into account is their intention. Like, is their intention with disruption that I want to disrupt the class, or I want to draw attention to myself? Or is it that I have a need that's not being met right now, or I'm frustrated about something, I'm not sure how to manage my emotions. So it could be all of those things. So disruption minor could be, you know, a 4K student that had a rough morning, didn't have breakfast, and just had a rough time. But it's something we want to document, because if we notice a pattern of that, we definitely want to support that student. If it's a 3rd or 5th grader that is yelling out something inappropriate in front of the class, there's obviously an intention behind that, and that would probably rise to the level of a major versus a minor.
Got it. Thanks for
Yeah.
clarifying.
I've got one for you, as long as you're here. I'm just curious of an example between, an example of inappropriate behavior major and an inappropriate behavior minor. What are examples that you see and report on?
Yeah, so I would say like a minor, in my lens, it usually is repeated behavior that we're seeing. Like, maybe we've tried to give a reminder, or we've tried to have them redirect a behavior, and now we're seeing it consistently, so now I just want to document it. Because remember, like, when you're documenting behavior, it's not a gotcha, that's not the action step, it's really just for us to look at our data and go, what are our areas of need? What day of the week is our biggest struggle? What area of our school is having the biggest concern right now? So it's really for us to look and make decisions on. So inappropriate behavior, again, if you're looking at a 5-year-old that maybe did something inappropriate during their choice time, and we want to document that because it's becoming a pattern, versus like, you know, something that happened on the playground, or they were doing something, like I said, an older student. So like I said, again, we always look at intention, we always look at age, and that really differentiates a lot of times major versus minor. Or if it's repeated, then it generally moves into the category away from minor into major, if it's a repeated behavior.
Okay.
I'll pick on Kennedy. All the schools seem to have this, but 5-day absence letter at a count of 545, is this like 2/3 of your students that are taking vacation, or is this that many kids that just throughout the year accumulate 5 days?
Yeah, so every year, students get to miss up to like 10 days of school from the state of Wisconsin. So as they get close to that 10-day mark, once they reach 5 days, there's an automatic letter that goes home just letting parents know you've reached 5 days. Once it gets to 10 days, same thing happens, automatic message goes home. So whether you're just keeping a kid home for being sick, or want to take them to a Brewers game, or whatever it might be, once they reach that 5 days, that automatically goes out, so.
Non-medical excuse.
Yeah, non-medical, yes.
And that's in our attendance policy.
How many students?
At Kennedy, around 875 to 900,
Okay.
depends on the year.
And just, I always find it interesting, we're try not to compare the buildings, and it's more so for elementary here, because they're all different. Every one of your buildings is different. Grossly, the cultures are different, the students are different, the parents, the teachers, everything's different about them. In your case, obviously, you have more students, so I think that's where we see some of that elevation. Right, one thing that I've heard, and just since this has been published, and a concern from parents around Kennedy is, are the numbers accurate? Are the numbers accurate? And I say that from voices that I'm hearing going, that's not I don't feel that's representative of what my student experienced within those walls.
Are you speaking just to the attendance piece?
All the numbers across the board. So just in general.
Okay.
I'm assuming they're accurate. I think the first thought that happens is, well, this is one of those sticky reports that we have, you report out and enter the data, we get it, the community gets it, and nobody wants it to be a poor portrayal of the building. But the more accurate and truthful it is, the better we can attack whatever that issue may or may not be. Can you help me put some of those concerns to rest for any of the community that may be watching that have expressed that concern?
Yeah, so I feel one of the most important things is, and I would say our staff believes this as well, is to make sure we're documenting as many things as possible. It was kind of mentioned earlier that when we document things like this, we can discover patterns and then do more things proactively. So I would say our staff does a very good job of wanting to document these things. So I would say, from my experience, that these numbers are accurate.
When it comes to documentation of it, what's the process? Is it the individual staff member? Is it your role? Walk me through the whole.
Individual staff member. So at Kennedy, we have something called the classroom discipline cycle, where we really want teachers to be able to handle more of the minor behaviors that may be disruptions, things like that in the classroom. But once they've gone through that process of reteaching those expectations to the students, contacting parents, even issuing like maybe a lunch attention on their own, then once they go through that process, then it gets sent to us. So I would also say anything that is like a major, so it's fighting or weapons or things like that, we don't expect them to go through that classroom discipline cycle. That comes right to admin. We deal with that right away. So yeah, we really want to try to work with the kids first, but once we've tried to do that, then that's when we have Skyward referrals and document what we've done.
So Brandon, would there be an example to maybe answer Mr. Ewart's question, that teachers possibly could be working with the student but not documenting, therefore the perception that this data is lower could be because they're working through without, but once it reaches a point of documentation, they do that?
Yeah, I would say yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
And obviously, it's going to depend on each teacher and their relationship and things like that. So I think some individuals, you might try working with them a little bit more than others, but.
And how long has Kennedy had staff document?
Say that again?
How long has Kennedy had staff document in Skyward? Has that been for a while?
Ever since I've been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, as long as the middle school is up, I think assault looks quite a bit different in middle school than grade school. What is an assault in the middle school?
Again, it depends on each of the situations. Obviously, I would say an assault at the middle school would be maybe one kid coming up and hitting another student. It just depends on each situation. And the severity. So if there's an injury, things like that, that's all part of how we go about analyzing and assigning what's the appropriate label.
And given the age, the SRO would be involved as well. That might
Yeah.
take an assault citation.
On every physical altercation, we make sure Officer Laux is a part of it.
So looking at Kennedy, looking at Rockfield, looking at MacArthur, and looking at County Line and Amy Bell, Kennedy is the only one that doesn't have an other. Can I have an example of what other would be?
That might be.
Because some are pretty high. And Kennedy is the only one that doesn't have an other.
Kennedy's got 2 pages, the second page has another.
Yeah.
Is it?
Oh,
What,
yeah,
what would an example of an other be?
So,
I'm
None of
I'm
the
trying to
above.
find
Yeah.
I'm trying to find an example of how something wouldn't fall into
we've-
this.
yeah, so I think that is an important highlight here. And for this team, as building administrators, it sounds like you've already been working on this, and it's definitely been a focus to really start dialing those types of things in. And it's not an I gotcha question, it's just, somebody made the decision of another. I don't know if it was staff or your office, but we would need ultimately to be able to figure out what that other was.
With
There's-
each of these referrals, there is a description of what the incident was. So for us administrators, you know, I know I can speak for, you know, the high school, as students come up, they want to know what exactly happened in that situation. So there is more detail provided.
You can pull a student's log and read their history. And I think, to your point, Mr. Ewert, too, this is a continued work in progress, and this isn't an exact science that will continue to iterator reliability, right? Because whether it's Dr. Croy doing summer school and it's for middle school kids, she needs to understand middle school behavior, or Mrs. Guerin's doing summer school and disciplining elementary kids, or people are asked to come to other buildings based on need. We have to have that iterator reliability. And you're asking the questions, I hope principals, you understand this. The board, this is public, this is per policy that this is reported annually, and I think transparently, this is a great report that our community sees. Our board gets questions, and they're asking you tonight because they need to go back to their constituents that elected them to provide clarity that they can, or people watching at home. So again, to Mr. Ewert's point, this isn't I got you, this is educational in respect to our community.
Yeah, I think I'll double down on that. This was a large transparency portion. No, right, we come into this, we hear all this, all these things are going on in these schools across the state, the country, wherever, right? And is it being documented, right? Are behaviors being addressed, and our expectations and outcomes coming from that? And those are the questions we get, right?
That's great. Can I respond to the other part? Because you wanted like
Yeah,
some examples?
that'd be great.
So when we went through this process, as Alex had said, we dialed down so many different categories. And other remained, which even at our own school, sometimes we're like, we got to get rid of other. But part of it is kind of through that growing process of like, there was other categories that we used at our elementary school that maybe others hadn't used, or the middle school, or however it was. So I don't remember exactly why we kept the other in, but I think it was kind of that rationale that sometimes things don't always fit in here. Part of that is because we are still calibrating and making sure we understand it. So one thing that we had used up until we switched to this specific group was disrespect. So our teachers are pretty conditioned for looking for disrespect. So sometimes it's like that disrespect comes, especially, well, at any age really, but it's like, we've talked about this, this is the expectation, this is how we walk in the hallway, this is what you need to do. You looked right at me and then you ran. So is that inappropriate behavior, or is that other? Because we don't have a disrespect anymore. So sometimes we were catching that our staff started entering other as that disrespect catch-all. So we caught that after a little bit and said, hey, let's talk about what that means. But again, we had to also fit within the categories that we had. So, or like, I mean, inappropriate, the inappropriate behavior kind of became our catch-all. And again, then what we take as a school is we take time to dissect that and say, what does this inappropriate behavior look like? Is it the same, you know, and it's not the same because you have a whole bunch of kids, and what inappropriate is different for every kid. But what we don't see on this chart is all of the descriptions. So when all of this is entered into our system, there's always a narrative. And so it's not pulled up in this chart, but we always have that to look at. So we have that answer for what other is. So we go through and say, what's going on? What is this? Another example of some of that discrepancy, you know, it might be, there was one example I was going to give, like throwing food, you know, in a cafeteria. That's, you know, if it's a kid who like tosses something and it slides off the table and now creates a mess, that might be a minor. But then you've got kids who are starting and they're throwing food after they've been told. Well, we might document that as a major. It all just depends on that. It's all relative to that too. But the big thing, like Brandon had said, is we want to make sure we're documenting it so we can track it. And so even like some of the numbers too, like we're really heavy at our school about tracking. So we have a lot of minors, because if we have students where we do what's called the reteach, we teach students what the expectations are from that behavioral perspective. We may reteach, and then when we get to that point where we say, you know what to do, we'll still go forward and reteach and have those consequences, have that restorative practice, but we document it. So we're pretty heavy on our minors. And then we go through as a committee and we look at it and say, what are our trends we're seeing? Where is there a specific student? Where is this happening? And we take time to dissect that. That's why it's really important to document, is then we dissect, is this happening in a specific setting? Is it happening at a specific time of day for this particular child? Or are we noticing a specific setting that we're having more of these disruptions or these actions happening that we need to hone in on? What is it about that? If we're noticing a lot going on the playground at a specific time of day, because we have different times of recess, then we want to process, okay, what's happening at that time of day? What group is it? How do we work with the teachers? How do we work with the students and reteach? So we use this data regularly to monitor.
Thank you.
Just since you're there and you kind of explained something already, Rockfield does have some higher numbers with the inappropriate behavior, I think, minor at 196, physical aggression minor at 197, and then the disruptions, there's two categories, one's 106. I think, and just from hearing you explain some of what's going on, you've told us what's going on in your building. And we look at it from a curricular lens when we talk about cross-district alignment, and maybe some of that approach needs to be applied here to clean this up. And there might be something you're doing fantastic in your building, and we're just reporting it all, right? The other scenario might be that different buildings doing something differently. But in order for us, and while the buildings are different, the culture and it's different, this is kind of one of those things, when I look at it, it should be very similar to curriculum. The approaches that these students are being addressed with, because they all end up at the same middle school, they all end up at the same high school with all the same expectations when they get to those. And if yours isn't right cross-district aligned with the other three elementaries, and then they're not vertically aligned with what the middle school is expecting, the expectations are for there, and they're not aligned with what the high school's expectations are, and then we're kind of setting ourselves up for a little bit of failure, and it's not with an ill intent or no attempt at all to address the issues. It's just if we're all coming at it from different directions, and I think that's where this is going, is this will eventually be, as a group of building leaders, addressing this with your staff to address it similarly across those buildings. And I think we're seeing this report in its infancy. So that's why it's kind of skewed different across the board, right?
Yeah, definitely. And previous to this year, we've entered majors into Skyward in the past. This is the first year that we've been entering the minors into Skyward. And previously, we had a different program that we would enter minors in, so it wouldn't be something that would even come to your attention. It was something where our teachers have gotten really good about documenting, tracking, so that when we come together as a committee, we know exactly what's happening. So if a teacher feels that they retaught something, they've called home on it, let the parents know, have a plan in place. We still want them to document so that we are all on the same page. And when I say we, that means the school counselor, the school psychologist, myself, our social worker, and then the couple team leaders who are part of this committee, so that we can make sure that we're supporting the teacher, making sure that they have what they need. So it's really that tracking system with the minors.
Thank you.
Usually how we look at it as the minor is like when a teacher is making those contacts, or a staff member that can do the reteaching, and then it goes to the teacher, and then they're making that contact and letting parents know. When it gets to I need to make that call to the parents, that's when we're looking at majors. So that's how we delineate things. But again, to your point, that's why we're doing this, so that we can calibrate and all try to be on the same page as a district. That unified front is important. And I know Jess and Brandon have asked for that as well, that we're all working together and trying to honor that work at an elementary level, so that when they get to the middle school, that all the students know what's expected at the middle school. It doesn't matter what elementary school they come from.
I think if the work is continued to be grounded in that direction, we're going to see a more not more detailed, but more consistent report here that we can actually say, oh, I can understand what's going on here more. Right now we have a bunch of numbers. It's good. It's out there, the information's out there, but it's not dialed in across the district in the same manner. And I think it's really what's evident. Now I get the phone call, well, what's going on at this school versus that school? Okay, it's being potentially reported a little differently, right? And the definitions are different. And I'm going to open this up to all the administrators out here. What are you doing in your roles to ensure that the staff feel supported in their decisions about reporting, to ensure behavioral change outcomes within students, so they have a work environment that's conducive to education, not only for themselves, but for the other students in those rooms?
So specific to Rockfield, and I know you said it opened up to others, but
Yeah.
so for our school, we have we have a tier 2 meeting, or a tier 2 team that talks about like tier 2, like interventions and supports that students need. So that's where every 3 weeks, we were meeting every 2 weeks, now we're meeting every 3 weeks. And so as a team, the counselor, myself, we have a special ed teacher on the team, we have 2 teacher leaders, we have a special ed aide, and then we have the social worker and the psychologist all attend this meeting, so this every 3 weeks, where we look and we flesh out the data. We have the notes attached to of what happened, what is it, we analyze everything, and then we, sometimes if we're noticing a pattern of behavior for a student, and with that teacher, we'll invite the teacher in too, or we always end the meeting with some action plans for reaching out to the teacher to find out, what do you need from us, how are you doing, and then we look at what the student might need, so our student can get intervention in different ways depending on what it is. So the types of interventions that we use at the elementary schools would be, maybe the student needs a mentor, like another teacher or somebody else to connect with, that's not the regular teacher. We look at some, what's called SAG groups, so they have like 6-week groups that will work with the counselor. So if we notice some students who are, some of our physical aggression things might be some of our littler kids who are struggling with their body, their hands and space, and they're real touchy. So our school counselor has done different groups with certain students that fit that profile to kind of keep their hands and feet to themselves. There's been sportsmanship groups if we're noticing a heavier group of numbers of kids who are really struggling with that, so that would go to, and so then, and that's why we ask for that data too. We ask our teachers to really track it so that we can see, is that support working? Is that enough? The final thing that we offer specific that's, that we do monitor the data for is check in, check out. So sometimes we have students who they check in with a trusted adult, which happens to be our library aide, and in the morning, and they set a goal for the day, and then they have a little chart that recognizes, it breaks up the day into the different increments, 6 different parts of the day for the morning and the afternoon, and then their lunch and recess, and then they check in with their teacher to just reflect, get some positive feedback too about how they're doing, and then if they're being safe, respectful, and responsible during that time. And then we're monitoring that, and that chart goes home to parents every day so that they can see that. And then as that team that I talked about, when we meet, we reflect on that and we look at the trend of how they're performing with that check-in, check-out program. Is that enough? Are they doing well? Is it time to graduate them? And then the parents are always involved in that dialogue as well. So that's what we're doing to support our kids.
It's a few items.
At the middle school, that teaching is very hard, as it is everywhere, and so we really focus on supporting the teachers. We do some tier 1 things over the announcements about kindness and things like that. We do code of conduct meetings for the students and the teachers to hear, so everyone's on the same page, so they know what the rules are, so they know what the expectations are, so they can follow them. We've got the classroom discipline cycle, like you said, which is a nonverbal warning, a verbal warning, and then talk in the hall, and then phone call home. Those things, that's a whole cycle that we go through, but if those don't work, then what we do is we do a huddle system, which means that we get everyone on the team in the same place. Before that, we have house team meetings, coordinated arts, which are electives. They meet as well. We have student services, admin team meetings. We have a lot of meetings where we'll talk about things. But if those are not working, or if there's something there's a high need for a student, or they're communicating through their behavior that they need something that we're not providing, we do something called huddling. And what huddle is you grab everyone on the team. So their house teachers, their counselor, student service, any other student service representative, an admin, and we get together, and it's like none of us are as smart as all of us. We get together, we decide what we're gonna do, what our next steps are, we assign roles for everyone, and then we don't stop until the teacher feels supported and the student gets the help they need.
Thank you. Mr. Rooney?
Good evening. To echo what Jess and the other principals have said, supporting the teachers is a huge part of the culture in the high school. The leadership team prides itself on handling all of the referrals very swiftly, and we take them very seriously. As Jess just said, we do coach all of our new teachers, and we just remind all of our staff of kind of the general process they should be following. If there is a classroom issue, have you met with the student? Have you called home? Have you met with parents? Once the teacher writes the referral, I don't want to put a numerical value on this, but I'd say 98% of the time we're giving a consequence to that student. The 2% of the time that we aren't, we're having a follow-up conversation with the teacher to say, here is why we maybe handled this differently than you expected us to.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, just to kind of echo what Jess was saying, another thing that we do is we debrief after major incidents, and we create what's called a behavior intervention plan, or sometimes crisis plans, to determine what we may need to help support the teacher, help support the student. So as Jess said, we all come together collaboratively to figure out what is the best course of action. A lot of times when we look at those behavioral intervention plans or those crisis plans, we want to make sure we're following it, and we want to make sure we're seeing any trends and making sure we're making appropriate adjustments and modifications for the students.
Anyone else have any different approach that they're using in their building? And I ask that question with all sincerity. We've received recent communications from staff that have felt not supported. I understand there's complex scenarios at play in some of those situations, and I think a lot of that's continuing to be discussed, and that's Martine's office now, and Dr. Reuter's office, and we're going to work on all of that, but I think all of that plays into what we just talking about, right, as far as being consistent across these buildings, because we're going to have staff that can go from one building to another, and some are going to be expected to go from one building to another on various days. But if they're not feeling supportive and they're dealing with, I don't want to say the student's always right mentality, right, because it's a kind of a customer service scenario, but we definitely know the student might not always be right, and sometimes the parent's not always right. And that staff member very well may be seeing things, and we need to make sure that those concerns are being taken care of. We also need to make sure they're complying with certain other policies and other items at play, IEPs, whatever it happens to be. But I think the other portion of that is building an understanding within staff of what can or can't be given certain scenarios at play. So I think a lot of those communications we've received recently are concerning, extremely concerning from multiple standpoints, not just the information being provided, but more the root cause of some of those scenarios. I would really make sure as a team, you guys are working on figuring out a way to make sure that those staff are heard and felt and supported when they're dealing with difficult student situations. Because I think we know, as much as you do, the staff want to ensure the best education for these kids, but we can't do it if it's continuous disruptions that are allowed to repeat themselves. I think we've all had students in a class at some point, if you have a child, that have experienced the class either gets shut down or the class has to leave while behavior is being addressed, and that's a safety concern, and that has to happen. But there's a lot of things at play. For the staff, for the family, for the students, it's not an easy thing, just like this report isn't, because we do hear, like Dr. Reuter said, a lot on this without a lot of understanding behind it, and that's all we're trying to create here. So we look forward to the progress that's going to be made. I know there's going to be continuous changes, continuous work around it. I'm excited to see it. I think it's only going to make the district stronger. But as long as we're truthful about the numbers that we're seeing and then aggressively pursuing solutions to some of those things, we know none of this will be zero. It's not possible. So I don't think anyone should ever look at having to report this and say, maybe it should be a minor just because I have too many majors. I don't think any of you are, it would be an unethical approach to it. I'm not worried from that standpoint, but it's a tough look in the mirror, I guess, at some of the situations that we have. And it's always one of those, what can we do better? We don't always have a perfect answer, but as a team, and this team that's sitting in front of us, I think we can get some good answers. So, I don't know if anyone else has anything else for this.
I just thought what was interesting is that really in all of the elementary schools, we had high numbers of behavioral issues. When we got to middle school and high school, it was all mainly tardiness. So I guess is the takeaway, one, do we know like the number of kids that are in each of these reports? So we have 195 incidents. Is that 5 kids doing that? Is it 10 kids doing that? So then when they, is what we're doing then in the elementary schools working, because we're not seeing those same behaviors when we get to the middle school and high school. So that would be obviously a positive. So I guess that would be one of the things, and I don't know if we can put that on this report, like, again, some of these higher incidences where we have, 195 incidences, how many kids does that reflect? And then is it maturity that is kind of changing things once they get to middle school, because that's big, but also is it what we're doing in the middle school, in the elementary schools, being diligent in writing up incidences and working with these kids? Is that why we're being more successful in in some of these categories when we move forward? So that's just something, I guess, interesting, and I don't know how you track that, but again, just knowing if you have just a certain number of students that are having these issues, following them once they get to the middle school and high school, just to see what we're doing is working. So, and again, just, it's hard to say, what are you putting in this category? What are you putting in this category right now? Because I know that's what you guys are working on, which is, so it'll be interesting, like, Russ was saying too, getting consistency across the board so that every student knows the expectations when they get to each one of the different levels. But obviously, when you're seeing a big change going from elementary to the middle school, that is a big deal. So I guess kudos on that.
You bring up a really good point, that we do, when we break this information down, we disaggregate even a lot more than what you're seeing up here. We're always looking at the number of students and the number of incidents. So if you look at that number, you're right, it's not 271 students, it's 271 incidents. So when we see students, when we flag students who have more incidents happening, that's when we start working on that process, and it goes from tier 1 to tier 2 to tier 3 until we solve that problem. That's a good point.
And you can, the truancy pieces, the attendance pieces, you can correlate that to number of students, because you can't get a 5-day letter twice, right?
Right.
So there's certain things that fall, that's the exact number of students, where others could be multiple incidents for one student or 2 students.
Mm-hmm. Then we obviously have to work on our attendance issue then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the 5-day is interesting. I've received them for some of my students. And it can be an unexcused sick, right? And multiples of them, and we've seen that where these kids are getting knocked out for a week, not just a day or two. Parents are being a little more cautious coming out of things. That's great, they should be. We can avoid some of that if we take the time to get those excuses, but then that also requires the parent to get into the doctor's office and get it, and there's a lot more that goes on with that sometimes than usual, or maybe in the past. Yeah, when you start getting to the further days, though, that's when the 5-day, I think I can kind of understand and we can all look at and get, but when we start getting down the road into some of the more extended truancyism and absenteeism, or the tardiness, I'm sure those are repeat offenders on the tardiness. I guess I don't have much more to say about it, other than this is another attempt for this district to continue to be transparent. The data's there. We're going to refine it in a way that makes the most sense. We're going to support you and your mission to support your teachers and the students. That's our job from this position. Like I said, these numbers are never going to be zero. They're going to always raise more questions from the community, but we don't have a problem standing here and addressing those. That's why we hear it from all different data that we report out like this, that some other districts don't. And I don't have a problem. If we can explain or build out understanding around it, fine. It's not a big deal for us. I don't know if anyone else has, Mr. Wolf.
Yeah, I'm curious, just 2 categories yet. Not to pick on the middle school, but the numbers are maybe a little higher. Can you give me an example of a tech violation minor and a tech violation major? Since I didn't carry a laptop computer K through 12, when I was in school, I'm thinking this is laptop related.
Yeah, Chromebook related for sure. So a technology major violation minor actually might be a kid playing games on his Chromebook, watching YouTube, things like that.
That's a minor?
Yeah,
Minor.
it could be, you know.
Okay.
The majors are more
Probably
when
depends
they're
on
causing damage to their Chromebooks.
Okay.
Or using the internet extremely inappropriately.
Inappropriately, yeah, so.
Okay. Now I know.
We could continue talking about a lot of this. If anyone else has anything, absolutely, but otherwise we'll move on since we're on item 3B for our evening.
Yeah. Thank you, principals, for answering questions tonight. I think it brings clarity to the board as well as the community on many things. And again, it's continuous improvement, and we can always do better. And you heard tonight how we're improving.
Absolutely.
And can I
Absolutely.
clarify a point? And
Yep.
these are our categories that we're looking at. The state requires us to do certain ones, and those numbers will be compared with other school districts. When does that come out?
I don't know that I would have to look into that and get back to you. I don't know that it's published by district on DPI, but it might be internal reported to the federal level, but I'll look into that.
Because we've seen that before, haven't we as a board? No.
It plays out in the report card at some point, but not transparently.
Correct. So I'll get more information
That would be a
for you
good
as a
question
board.
for DPI's head.
We do a lot of reporting to DPI that we never see why we have to do those things, so. I'll get that information, I'll get clarity on that.
Anything further? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4. Thank you again for coming. I appreciate it. I know Chris, Dr. Reuter, and I talked about it, and I know it's the middle of your summer, but it really does help lend context to the conversation. I think for the parents that are out there listening too, please reach out to them. They're the leaders of your buildings, your students are in, and they have no problem answering questions specifically around this. You'll probably get a faster answer from them than you will from us. We will always find that answer for you, but by all means, either contact them directly, ourselves, or both of us, and we will all learn from the situation. So, thank you.
Thanks, principals. You guys, if you have evening plans, feel free to take off.
The 8:30 dinner plan, I guess. Item 4, citizen comment. I have no one signed up. I'm assuming nobody showed up since we collected this. No hands, going once, going twice. Item 5, consent agenda. Consent agenda A, approval of June 16th, 2025 meeting minutes. B, approval of teacher contracts. And C, approval of donations.
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through C.
Mr. Barney with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion?
Yeah, can I hear a highlight of the donations, please?
Yes, I'm sorry. We have multiple donations again this evening. MacArthur Elementary PTA, $12,978.61 for admission and busing for multiple field trips for students at MacArthur Elementary. Anonymous donor, $5,100 for Germantown High School general football program needs. MGS, $1,000 to the Germantown High School Pom and Dance Team. Alt Imagery Photo Studio, $500 to the Germantown High School Pom and Dance Team. And R&R Insurance, our consultants, services $500 to Germantown High School Pom and Dance.
Awesome. As always, every month.
Yeah, another $20,000 donations. It's awesome.
I just have one question. I think I know the answer to it, but if we can just, cross-categorical teacher. We have one at County Line, one at middle school. Kenny Middle School. What does that encompass for the?
That's a special ed teacher. Cross-categorical means
okay.
they're across multiple categories of support, whether it's reading support. They oversee IEPs for math goals, reading goals, behavior goals.
Okay.
Right, Mrs. Cole?
Right there, work with students with any disability as far as like across the categories. And those were both for filling positions that were either retirements or.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, it looks like we had 4 hires. Are we expecting more as we go through the summer?
Yeah, we do have a few more that we're looking to, is this on?
Yeah.
It's on.
Can you hear? All right.
Yep.
Yeah, we do have a few more that we're looking to hire. We're looking to hire still one more special ed teacher cross-category at the middle school. We are going to be looking to hire a FACE teacher at the high school, and then obviously,
Middle school.
or middle school, sorry. Nope, FACE is at the high school.
Is it?
Yep. Oh, no, middle school, sorry, middle school. And then the last one will be obviously upon approval, then the dean position as well. So we're in a pretty good position. We do have a number of aid positions and support staff, but we're using a lot of different avenues to pull in candidates.
I know we've been a little more aggressive this year, started earlier. We had our staffing plan outlined earlier this year in order for us to be able to do that, to kind of go after the best qualified candidates.
I met with 2 different principals today, and part of their monthly meetings with me, they both had to do hires this year, and they're staffed. And they said the drastic change to us being more aggressive this year and moving our timelines and being more diligent allowed for deeper pools than summer hiring. So we're going to see the benefits and the quality of candidates we've brought in.
I think we're going to continue, obviously, to go down that path and be more aggressive. And I think that's your new role, so.
That's my job.
Perfect. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Item 6, Buildings and Grounds Committee.
Yes, we met earlier this evening, went through a few different topics. Frank gave us an overview of his work order completion report, which he's begun his monthly reporting on that, went through and explained what some of those longer-term items as far as those work orders taking a little bit longer, more than 45 days to be completed. Everything else looked good, and we're continuing to be in good shape for the summer work. We also went through a brief building tours update. Back earlier this month, July 1st, we did visit MacArthur and Rockfield, and July 8th, we visited Amy Bell and County Line as part of our summer tour, going through all of the different buildings and grounds based off of the work that was done earlier this year as far as our facilities condition report. We do visit Kennedy Middle School next week, Tuesday, July 22nd, and July 29th, we'll be back here at Germantown High School to do the building tours. All are welcome, not only the committee, but also the board members, but also members of the general public to take advantage of the opportunity to see our schools in different ways than maybe you're used to, or if maybe it's been a while since you've been in these schools. We're highlighting all of the future needs, but also the things, taking a look at the things that we've recently either improved or added to, or whatever the case might be. So all are encouraged. We also did a couple other topics that we passed along with positive recommendations to the Finance Committee. We did discuss and approve for that positive recommendation the 2025 district asphalt services, and we also passed over to finance the district office refresh project, gave our stamp of approval on that. And that is all for buildings and grounds.
Fantastic. No, oh, that's right, it's all going to finance. Okay, thank you. Item 7, Finance Committee, Mr. Lowes.
Yes, the Finance Committee met earlier this evening at 5:30 PM here in the PAC. Full board item 7A, committee meeting update. We went through the consent of July vouchers. Brittany answered 2 questions for us. Next item is full board item 7B, 2025 asphalt services. Frank Lord went through the projects that he chose to do this year. Mostly sealing and striping of parking lots, one parking lot being ground and repaved. So we have a motion to move forward with a positive recommendation to the full Board of Education to approve the 2025 district-wide asphalt services using Johnson & Sons Paving Company in the amount not to exceed $158,030, funded out of the Fund 41 Capital Improvements budget.
Comes forward with a positive recommendation, does not require a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes.
Okay, and next item is full board item 7C, district office refresh. In 1991, the district office was established. Not too much in the line of upgrades have been completed since 1991, so it's in need. We have a motion with a positive recommendation from the Finance Committee to the full board to approve the district office refresh project using JL Business Interiors for the furniture not to exceed $37,291 and Premier Flooring for carpet not to exceed $37,500.
Comes forward with a positive recommendation, does not require a second. Any discussion? I just have one, I tried to be brief comment on that. This is one of those scenarios where we tend to hear, why is the district spending money in an area that doesn't affect students or doesn't house students? And I would answer that very simply with, we have our administration team and their their assistants that deserve a quality work environment, and I would not describe that building as that right now. You have a $61 million budget that we're trying to run a school district with, employ professionals and keep them within our buildings. I can tell you this building is nowhere near comparable to some of the surrounding districts' facilities as far as an administrative staff goes. And the least we can do is ensure they have working air conditioning, some fresh carpet. When I hear things like the air filters, when we take them out, there's an air quality issue in there, and they're black every time. These are concerns. These working professionals deserve an environment that supports the work they do, which is supporting all of the building administrators that were here and all the staff that they support. This is the least I think we could approach that building with at this time. So I guess that's all I have to say on that topic. Anything further from anyone else?
Well, I think we'd hate to lose good talent because someone came in for a job interview and saw the building condition and said, no, I'm not going to work here. So we've got a great new HR director, right? Have I got the title correct? Fortunately, he didn't look at the torn carpeting and said, well, I don't want to work here. So welcome aboard.
Thanks.
And I think we're happy to fix this up. This really isn't a lot of money for what the private sector sometimes spends on office facilities, cubes, and carpeting and that sort of thing.
Yeah, 100% agree. Nothing further? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes.
And the Finance Committee adjourned at 5:43 p.m.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 8, new business aid, discussion and action to approve academic standards. Mr. Miziak, our yearly conversation.
As required by state statutes, each year annually, the school district notify parents and guardians of the academic standards that the school board has adopted. That will be in effect for the school year. We're required to do that in the areas of mathematics, science, reading, writing, geography, and history. The statute states that we may post that electronically, and that's what our past practice has been. So on the school district's website, you can find a link to the academic standards that had been in effect for last year, and we would continue forward with the same posting of our academic standards. Very similar to what we did last year. Again, we identified the specific section of the state standards that the board is adopting, and that's section 3 of the academic standards. So at that point in the standard documents, you're going to see all the standards that I referenced during the Teaching and Learning Committee that we brought in May, where you can see how we take one of those standards and then utilize that to articulate what students are learning in their classrooms.
With that, I'll entertain a motion before discussion.
The motion to adopt the Wisconsin academic standards for the 2025-26 school year in the areas of literacy, math, social studies, and science, K-12, as presented in the attached annual notice.
Second.
Who had the second? Okay, Ms. Higginbotham with the motion, Mr. Pollak with the second. If anyone's ever taken the time to actually look at this document, and I know most of these, actually I know everyone on this board has, they'll notice that it comes in multiple sections. And the way we post it is simply the standards, it's not a matrix, what's the term I'm looking for? And
Table?
You mean
yeah,
like
the table.
what comes
Yeah,
before the
Section
standards?
3, no, I'm talking about section 3. It's a table of standards, and that is the only, as we post it, that's how we post it, that is the only section that we are looking to approve. We are not looking to approve sections 1 and 2 of that. We've done that for 4 years now, this will be the 4th year now. The motion language is definitely cleaned up, and I appreciate that. I think there's some confusion sometimes by that longer motion we originally used. But if this community is wondering, are we blanketly approving all of the state standards? The answer is, we are approving the standards to be used within the district. UBD and your office take care of, along with conversations, what's being prioritized and taught out of those standards. We have to approve a standard. We could technically write our own. The labor that would incur is astronomical, so we take what's good out of this and apply it within our buildings. In this scenario, we in the past as a board have been a united front on that means we do not accept sections 1 and 2 of DPI state standards. Matter of fact, we wholeheartedly disagree with the lens they attempt to put on the standards that are being applied in these classrooms. And I think we're going to continue to do that tonight and moving forward. We will continue to advocate that DPI get back to stripping this down and using it as a document that's intended to be a guidance for the minimum needed for these students in these areas. And then raise that bar from there. Not shed a light or a direction or a lens or whatever they would like to discuss it as, to provide their context to how these standards should be worked through. That's where I'll leave it at that. If anyone has further questions for me on it, they can reach out to me directly, but I don't know if anyone else on this board has anything else to say. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes.
Was there, I'm sorry, was the motion read? Yes, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
When you spoke to it.
Yeah, Ms. Higginbotham had it. B, discussion and action to approve 25-26 supplemental contract. Ms. Katie Cole. This is Katie Cole.
Hello, I had brought these supplemental contracts earlier for school psychologists and counselors in May. This is an additional supplemental contract for a new hire. So we hired an additional school psychologist. So he was not part of that May set of contracts. So this is for, the school psychologists are part of pupil service activities before the school year begins, specifically around planning and providing professional development for our staff. So they have some hours that they are needed for before school starts. And then at the end of the school year in June, we have paperwork and things that we work on that they have to finalize. So this is for our additional school psychologists for that supplemental contract to do some of those pupil service activities.
Thank you. Entertain a motion before discussion.
Motion to approve the 2025-2026 supplemental teacher contract for Andrew Savanash.
Second.
Mr. Boyer with the motion. Mr. Barney, I believe, with the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. 8C, discussion and action to approve administrator contract, Germantown High School Assistant Principal, Dr. Reuter.
Thank you, Mr. Ewert. This evening, Mrs. Alex Fisher is being brought forward to you. You had a chance to meet her in an earlier closed session meeting to talk with her about her beliefs and philosophies. Alex has worked with us now for 2 years. Prior to that, she was a math teacher at Oak Creek High School in grades 9 through 12, and she was then hired to be the dean academic career coordinator for the high school, as well as she spent time this past year, a semester plus time at Kennedy Middle School. So she's seen the scope of Dean working with kids in grades 6 through 12 and with behavior, attendance, some aspects of the assistant principal job. Alex rose to the top as our top candidate, not only from a standpoint of her skill set and ability, but her familiarity with our school district. You've seen multiple presentations in the past 2 years from her on her development of the Portrait of a Graduate, our Ed for Employment plan, all aspects of academic and career planning that has taken us from very minimal work in the district to exceptional work in this region. So this evening, it's my recommendation to approve Mrs. Fisher as our next assistant principal at Germantown High School.
I'll entertain a motion before discussion.
Motion to approve the administrative contract for Alexandra Fisher, presented for the 2025-2027 school years.
Mr. Polk with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. I have one, let me scroll down here. One question, will this align her with the current cycle?
Well, we have some people not in cycle all at the same time. And some, she will be with one other administrator.
Okay.
who is
I
out
know,
of cycle.
we always have a conversation
Yep.
about that, and I think we always offer them
Yep. It's
the ability to eventually get aligned into
yeah,
that cycle.
I will just, it's not a practice I've seen necessarily anywhere else that every administrator's on the same cycle. It's based on when you were hired.
I just know it comes up
Yeah.
as a topic of
Every,
conversation.
yeah.
So,
As per state statute, administrator contracts can only be up to 2 years. And that's
so you
usually
can't
what you
extend
offer.
to 3, and we don't want to give a 1.
Correct, and a 1 is you're now a lame duck, and
Yeah.
most people would not accept that as the norm.
Okay. I think I would echo everything Dr. Reuter said. We had a great conversation and closed, and we'll keep that there. I will bring one thing out. This dean position always seems to lead to a new position, an expanded role within this district. It's an opportunity for the district to grow a staff member, and once again, it seems like that's the case. I'm confident in knowing you're here because you're the right candidate at the right time for this position, not just simply in-house and in a convenience scenario. Dr. Reuter, I know for a fact, will not allow us to not bring in the best candidate available for any of these positions. And this board expects that, he expects that, the administration does expect that, and I think it reflects that as we see some of these roles that are either expanding. I think Ms. Cole has expanded her role recently, and we're excited to see you do the same. Your impact has been noticed at the high school. We've heard from students, families, as well as the middle school last semester. So we're excited to see you to grow in that. I don't know if anyone else has anything further. Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes.
Okay, any words of wisdom?
I don't know if I have wisdom, but I've appreciated the opportunity to learn and grow in the district over the past 2 years in my Dean of Students and Academic and Career Planning Coordinator role. And I appreciate the board approving me tonight, as well as Dr. Reuter and Mr. Smith for entrusting me in this position. And I am looking forward to growing in this new capacity and serving the Germantown School District.
Fantastic.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. All right, D, discussion and action to approve girls wrestling coach. Dr. Antonelli.
Good evening. We are here tonight to ask for approval to add a girls wrestling coach at both Kennedy Middle School and Germantown High School. Last year the WI approved wrestling, female wrestling as an official sport. They have their own schedule, their own state tournament. So we're looking to add a head coach at each school. We do have female wrestlers at both schools.
Fantastic. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the head girls wrestling coaches for the 2025-26 school year.
Mr. Boyer with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? Mr. Lowe?
Just wondering when that season starts for girls?
It's in the winter.
Coincides with boys.
Okay, so I saw there wasn't any, that person is not in the list
Correct.
for
Yep.
tonight. So we have time.
We have time. Dr. Castro's going to post it on WeCan tonight, and we're going to hope to have that person in place when we bring the winter coaches to you in a couple months.
Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I think as a sport, and the WI did the right thing here. It's been a long time, even from when I was a youth, we would see girls participating in it. Makes for interesting situations when you're talking about wrestling and the physicality that goes on there. I've always, it's been interesting, I guess, at least, but now to have it finally as their own sport, and they can take ownership of it and compete on a level playing field for them is fantastic. So, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. E, discussion, action, approve fall coaching contracts. Dr. Guerrero.
We are here again tonight to ask for our fall co-curricular coaching contracts to be approved for both Kennedy Middle School and Germantown High School.
Sorry, I'm just trying to scroll through it. I'll entertain a motion for discussion.
Motion to approve the fall coaching contracts as presented.
Second.
Mr. Barney with the motion, Mr. Pollak with the second. Actually, I'll open up any discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Thank you. F, discussion action to approve the 24-25 Fund 46 Capital Improvement Trust. Is that year's correct on there?
That's me.
Okay.
Yeah. First, I wanted to give a little background on Fund 46, so the board is just aware of what Fund 46 is and why the district is funding it for its future capital improvement plans. So the state of Wisconsin created Fund 46, so districts similar to us, which are negatively funded in the tertiary level, the ability to put money away to be able to make future larger capital improvement purchases. There is something called shared cost, which if a district like us would make a large purchase, such as $1 million capital improvement of some sort, that would basically tell the state that we have enough funding to be able to spend that money every year, which then they would say you don't need as much aid because your share of the expenses that year was larger than what the state's giving you. So to not have 1 year with a large expense to then decrease our shared costs in the future years, Fund 46 allows school districts to fund small amounts throughout the years, which then the deposit into the trust is part of our shared cost and not the large expenditure years down. So if a district is financially responsible, they would do small equal amounts over the years and to then save up for a future expense. So annually, we try to put money towards, it doesn't have to be a specific expense. We do have a 10-year capital plan, and whatever the 10-year capital plan states that is approved by the board at that time is what we have to spend this money on. So because now we have this new long-range facility plan, Mr. Lord would be coming back to the board to update our 10-year capital plan, because the last time we got it approved was when we created the trust in 2020. So because we have this new document, he'll update that. So when we do decide to spend the money out of 46, we would use our updated capital plan. So as of June 16th of 24, we had about $500,000 in Fund 46. We are asking the board today to put in $400,000 additional dollars into Fund 46, which would give us obviously about $900,000 towards a capital expenditure in the future. And it doesn't have to be one capital expenditure. It can be obviously multiple ones that add up to that total. The key to this is when we first started it in 2020, we put $1 into it because it has to be created for a 5-year period before you can even spend out of it. So we can't spend out of it until December 21st of 2025. if we choose to. You don't have to, but that's why we put $1 in there to start the quote-unquote clock before we can spend out of it. So annually, it has to be done by July 30th. It allows school districts, if at the end of their fiscal year they have funds available, to be able to not just put it in their general fund balance, to put it towards a trust. So they give us until July 30th of the next year, and then we'll charge it back to the previous year. That's why you're approving it for 24-25, even though you're approving it in 25-26.
Take a motion.
Motion to approve the deposit of $400,000 into the Capital Improvement Trust Bank Account, Fund 46, for future district capital projects.
Second.
Mr. Pollak with the motion, Mr. Boyer with the second. Any discussion? So this scenario could play out, capital improvement plans can change, but it has to be on the 10-year in order for this funds to be spent on it.
Correct. So we have, as you know, Fund 41, which is capital expenditures. The district levies annually for that, and that is for the expenses. So for example, this coming up year, it would be recommended to the board at the annual meeting to levy $600,000 on our revenue limit. That is for annual expenditures. This is for long-range expenditures. So we do have a 5-year capital plan in which we use for the Fund 41, and this would be a 10-year, so which would take the Fund 41 and extend it for a 10-year period of time. So yes.
So,
Both the 5-year and the 10-year are adaptable year to year based off of rising needs, anticipated needs. In this scenario, given a lot of the conversation with what we've been discussing with the village and developments, if there was a need, and I'm just asking this scenario, if there was a need to expand a building, these funds could be used for that?
If it's
If
built.
it was on the capital improvement plan.
Correct.
And that would, in that scenario, then allow this district to pre-save for those types of expenditures. And I would assume, and I don't like using this, but the referendum scenario would come up, this funds could be used to offset the totality of any potential referendum in the future if chose to be used that way.
Correct.
Yep.
And neither these funds or referendum funds count towards the shared costs.
So, and I think that is the very key portion of it. Do we get dinged for each year that we put in? So will we get dinged for this 400,000? Or,
Well, dinged, yes.
but versus 10 years from now, let's say we choose to spend out of this fund at a rate, call it $3 million, $4 million, $5 million,
Right.
we wouldn't be penalized for that expenditure.
Correct.
Just for the year over year, if it was 400,000, 300,000.
Correct, and 300, 400,000 is minimal in the big picture things of the percentage that we would be dinged. I was going to say hurt.
It's the best, I don't know, that's.
We're
the
spreading
easiest
the
way.
penalty over time.
Correct.
Rather than just a one-time.
Yeah. Well, but it's, yeah, it's,
But then your one time, if a district did do that and they had the one time, your tertiary aid would be so negative
Yeah.
that it would be a long-term effect into the future.
it would be just a severe funding issue. So,
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, for clarity, Ms. Altendorf, when did the state allow Fund 46 depository to begin? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yep, because I created Fund 46.
You're awesome.
So I went to the state legislation and had them create Fund 46 and the district that I was in, because we kept getting, our negative tertiary aid kept getting larger and larger and larger, and so it was in 2015.
So, and to your point, having worked in other districts, both Ms. Altendorf and I'm sure other administrators on this team have seen how districts who utilize that immediately in 2015 and worked with their boards to make a concerted effort for annual deposit, were able to offset referendum costs or do long-term capital improvement, whether it be add on to a school, add a gym, redo safe, secure entrances, those type of things. So we're a little behind, but it's, as you know, these have been part of our concerted efforts to build this up. To your point, Mr. Ewert, that we look on that long range. All of this work, you see, but I hope the community knows how it's colliding together to support the school district as well as support taxpayers long-term.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? And the only way we can reduce the burden for them in the future is to be smart with the investments now. This allows us to do that. I think the one thing we do battle from the constituents is, why couldn't you do X, Y, or Z right now? You just put 400,000 in, or you couldn't do it, like, for whatever expenditure it has to be, whether it's staff, building, improvement, whatever, doesn't matter. And the answer you just provided us is, if we do it that way, budgetarily, we will be severely restricted in the future, with real consequences to the taxpayers, because then we're talking about operational referendums to just recoup that operational budget that the state would technically reduce
Right.
our ability. So this is a strategic move for the future. It's going to continue to be that way. We're going to expect deposits probably similar to this range every year about this time of year, would be my guess, and continue that long forward vision for the district and our taxpayers.
Correct.
So thank you for paving the way years ago and making sure we're taking advantage of it now.
Perfect.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Item 9, closed session. We'll go to closed session here. A, motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 1:19.85, sub 1, sub C, to consider employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation data of any employee. A, employee reviews and concerns.
So moved.
Mr. Pollak with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Roll call.
Ewert.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Barney's a yes. Loth.
Yes.
Pollak.
Yes.
Higginbotham.
Yes.
Boyer.
Yes.
I do see we have a reconvene into open.
Yeah,
Is that,
we would have to, since it's on the agenda. There was talk of another topic, but.
okay.
But what's
So we will be
posted. So we'll
reconvening.
reconvene to adjourn.
Okay. We'll be reconvening to adjourn, no action.
As of right now, no.
Okay. All right, thank you for coming. If you want to hang out, I don't know how long we'll be in close, so get comfortable. Okay, 9:37, we'll reconvene back into open session. I will entertain, we have no action coming out of closed, so I will entertain one more motion.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Mr. Pollak with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you for coming. At 9:30.